Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, and welcome to a very special program, Leadership Through Fatherhood. Today, we're going to be talking to Marion Hill, director of our Man Cave program, to learn a little bit about the history of the program, how and why it got started, and some of the programs that you can participate in to help better and improve the relationship with your children, particularly fathers with their children. We'll also be speaking to a couple of participants from the program who can share the perspective of what their experience was like, what they learned, how they've been implementing the practices that they learned into their lives and relationships with their children, and hopefully to inspire you to take advantage of some of these resources that are available. Please, in the meantime, like, comment, share, let the world know that you're with us. We want to get as many people to this broadcast as possible to learn about our Man Cave program. As we get started, I would like to introduce Marion Hill, the founder of the Man Cave program through a partnership between the City of Phoenix Head Start Birth to Five program, the Greater Phoenix Urban League, as well as My Brother's Keeper. Marion, welcome to the broadcast.
Appreciate being here.
Yeah, if you can, just tell the world a little bit about yourself or kind of your background and how the program got started.
All right, cool. So first of all, glad to be here to be able to share a little bit about Man Cave and what Man Cave is all about. So first of all, Man Cave stands for Men All Need to Be Caring, Actively Engaged, Vested, and Encouraged. It's a program that's designed to engage fathers with an intentional focus on family outcomes and child development. Who am I in the space? My name is Marion Hill, and in this space, I am a City of Phoenix Birth to Five program coordinator, first and foremost. That's how I got into this work and got into this partnership with the Greater Phoenix Urban League. I'm also the Man Cave founder and project director. I'm a master trainer in several different areas with the Gurian Institute. That's understanding brain development and the differences between the way that boys and girls learn. And then I'm a nurturing fathers as well as a marriage and parenting master trainer. I'm a husband, I'm a father, I'm a son, I'm an uncle, I'm a coach, I'm a mentor, and I'm a champion for boys and men.
That a little technical difficulty. I'm realizing it's been a while since I used this platform, so a little bit of technical difficulties. But so you answered, kind of like the origins of Man Cave and what it is. But I guess we'll have an open discussion today, and if you are out in the audience and you would like to ask any questions, we will have opportunity for Q&A for Marion as well as Akil and Thurston, our other guests who will be part of the program. But I guess my first question is, why do fathers need a man cave?
So, first of all, with Man Cave, what we try to do is we try to create an environment that promotes feeling and behaving responsibly towards one's child, being emotionally engaged, being physically accessible, providing material support to sustain a child's needs, and then exerting influence over the nurturing and nurturance of that child. Why is it that men need a man cave? Well, we're living in or living through really a historically stressful time where men's depression and anxiety are really at epidemic levels. We're really stepping up and taking our place to be committed to be allies for women, for girls, for those who face just issues related to where a father is needed. And then we're striving to be intentional, to be an intentional parent, to be a leader in the family, in the workplace, and in the community. I feel that's why uh, all men need a man cave.
Uh, Thanks for sharing that. Now, you know, we talk about the influence, impact, and injury caused by fathers, and need to create this environment for discussion and education. Well, I guess I should phrase that differently. Like, if you can articulate a bit about what is some of that influence, impact, and injury caused by fathers who are not able to take advantage of uh, or have the support of a man cave.
Right, right. So really when we talk about it, looking at straight from a research perspective, and that's really kind of how I want to come at you. When we talk about family, we're talking about, mom and dad, two-parent household. And family involvement is a win-win situation. It's a win-win situation for children. It's a win-win situation for schools. Well, why is that? Because Children are more successful in the classrooms and in school. They're more ambitious. They're more self-confident with their identity, more self-protective and self-reliant, less likely to drop out of school, less susceptible to peer pressure, and less likely to get in trouble with the law. This is when a father or a male role model is interacting with their child, but it goes further than that. There are two types of nurturance. There's maternal nurturance that comes from the mom, paternal nurturance that comes from the father. That paternal nurturance is significant in leading to the intellectual development, social emotional development, responsibility, independence, the ethical, moral development of a child. Some examples of that, and some examples that I like to give to fathers, that if they spend a little bit more time together with their children, it leads to greater academic success. If they lend emotional support, it brings about more positive social behavior. If they're giving everyday assistance, it brings about fewer conduct problems. If they monitor their children's behavior on a daily basis, it creates better self-esteem. If they're using non-coercive discipline, it lowers the levels of depression in children. And if they're providing clear boundaries and expectations, especially for boys, it reduces contact with the juvenile justice system. That's on the positive side. But the challenge is this. The challenge is normally when you talk about children, when you talk about their social emotional development, when you talk about their education, and you talk about parent involvement, it normally equates to mother's involvement. And the assumption is always that the mom is responsible for the child's learning and development. And these assumptions go a long way really in missing the importance of the father's development. So Man.C.A.V.E is really created to really bring in and educate, but to create a safe and transparent atmosphere where men can share just about being a man, about fatherhood, about the perils of fatherhood, the struggles they may have with fatherhood, and we really want to educate them. On the flip side, when we talk about the impact or the injury that fathers can have, when fathers are not in the household, they're not engaged, or they're not in their biological household with their children, it leads to, and the data tells us, a 269% likelihood that their children are going to be arrested for drug dealing, firearm possession, or go to prison. They're 2 times more likely to drop out of high school, 4 times more likely to live in poverty, 7 times more likely to become pregnant as a teen, 2 times more likely to suffer from obesity, more likely to face abuse and neglect, and more likely to have behavioral problems. So really, we talk about the influence, the impact, and the injury that a father can cause. And we promote fathers engaging with their children, because we really don't want to see and look at the condition. When you look at the census and what the census tells us about fatherlessness across the country, there's an estimated 24.7 million children. That's 33% that live absent their biological father. And according to 72.2% of the US population, fatherlessness is the most significant family or social problem that's facing American families. And so this is why we created a Man.C.A.V.E really to promote fatherhood, the importance of fatherhood, the importance of father engagement. We really want to make a difference in the lives of children and families through father engagement.
Thanks so much, Marion. There was so much that I guess you laid on us right then and there, and I'll try my best to comb through some of this, and hopefully we can dive a little bit deeper. But one thing that you mentioned early on was the creating a safe space for fathers. That we just know that that's generally not readily available to fathers in our communities. Many of us have been raised and grew up and currently understand that men aren't supposed to cry, or men aren't supposed to show emotions, and men supposed to take on all of the troubles in the world and never really express any emotions for that. I don't know if we ever talk about how difficult being a father is, but it sounds like Man.C.A.V.E does create that opportunity. Have you seen much feedback from your participants and just being able to communicate to you how important it is for them to have this space?
Yeah, I think that in facilitating sessions and in having conversations with men, people don't think about it because they think that men are naturally supposed to be able to deal with the situations that come their way in life, and a lot of times I find that fathers especially are struggling, and they're struggling because of one of the things that you said, Jerry, is that they didn't have a father, or they didn't have a male role model in their lives And so now, without having a community of men surrounding them, they struggle because they find themselves in a position where now they are not only a man, but they are a father. And so they struggle with some issues dealing with the roots of fathering. My relationship with my father, the good, the bad, the indifferent, and how I carry that forward, or how it manifests itself in my relationships today, whether it be with my baby's mother, a co-parent, whether it be with my child. They struggle with that. And so we create that environment, that atmosphere to really deal with what I call the hole in the soul, or the father wound. And we talk about the little boy within, because really, in essence, that's what the father wound is. It's this little boy inside that didn't have needs met when it was a little boy, and now it's craving to have those needs met. And now this little boy is now a man, and sometimes those needs have a tendency to well up. So we want to talk about that, and we want to talk about the power for men to meet their own needs. And this is a huge place where men are having a difficult time and just struggling. And it's really to meet their own needs. Like, how do you meet your needs physically? Are you taking care of yourself physically? Are you taking care of your health? How are you meeting your needs intellectually? Are you consistently learning and learning new and different things? How do you meet your needs socially? What are you doing social wise, and socially interacting with other people? What about spiritually? How are you meeting your needs there? And I find that men are struggling in basically being able to meet their own needs. And if you can't meet your own needs, if you can't take care of yourself and look after yourself, then how do you expect to have the energy to be able to look after your family or nurture your children? So that's some of the little, just kind of the surface things that we deal with. We go a lot deeper in our programs with what we talk about with men, but those are some of the places right off the bat where they struggle.
Got it. Now we'll bring in a couple of those fathers that have gone through this program in just a moment. But I just have one other follow up question, and maybe just some food for thought as we bring in our guests. But one thing you mentioned is this idea of fathers not being in our households, that a father who is present kind of has to hear that as well. Like, how challenging of a stigma has that been for you all to overcome, just having to communicate the message that we are in our homes and we are taking care of our families?
Yeah, I think first of all, I commend those fathers that are in their home, that are actively engaged, that are taking care, of their families, and doing those things that we say, either whether it's society or we say in Man Cave, that a father should be. But we do recognize that there's struggles. Part of meeting your own needs is part of a struggle, but there's also a dynamic there when we talk about how is parenting learned, and this is sometimes what fathers will deal with is the fact that at one point in time you were a father, you were a boy, and you lived in your parents' household, and you gained experiences from their parenting or from their parenting style. And as those experiences were fed into you, you developed a self-concept, basically what you thought about yourself, and then you developed this affective concept, your self-esteem, how you felt about yourself. And what ended up happening is that kicks out in behavior. And so while trying to navigate in this world alone, but you're raising a family, you're also dealing with those issues. So that's why we always say, man, deal with you first, and that's why we create this environment in Man Cave. And then we also create, an environment for couples to go through and to talk about some things related to parenting, and then teaching some parenting skills. The great thing about Man Cave, and one thing I pride myself in Man Cave, is I look at it like this: I'm giving you a gift, and inside of this gift is a present that will allow you to be able to understand the nature of your children and the nature of your relationship. And then around that, Man Cave is going to help you and to give you some strategies to enhance the nurture of that nature. So we want to do a better job at nurturing the nature. And while we're nurturing the nature of the relationship, then we also want to take into consideration the culture, which is the environment that we're in, because that environment dictates and determines a lot with our kids. And we really do, as fathers especially, have to be interactive to understand their nature, things that happen to them from the outside or even from the inside that dictates and determines how they go, where they go, what they do, what they think, what they're listening to, what they're seeing. And we want to be there to nurture that nature, to be the best father that we can be, to help them navigate to the point where they get to that place and point where they're ready to take off as young adults.
Sure. Now, you mentioned something earlier about this program doesn't limit itself to the fathers in a relationship or limit itself to the fathers in the parenting of a child. So you have a nurturing fathers and marriage and parenting program. Can you
Right.
explain that a little bit?
Yeah, so the Nurturing Fathers program is specifically for fathers. Um, and it takes them through all the components really in terms of male nurturance, the world of feelings, the power to nurture, how to father without fear or without violence or fear. We look at overcoming barriers. We spend some time talking about anger, alcohol, other substance abuse, stress, just mental health issues. How do we use fun and games to create discipline? We talk about nurturing relationships, understanding how to nurture sons, how to nurture daughters. And then we talk about teamwork that exists between the father and the spouse or the co-parent. But we also do those things on the marriage and parenting side where we have couples that want to go through. So sometimes what we're seeing is we're seeing men that are going through the Nurturing Fathers program, then they're going back and grabbing their wife and they're going back and going through the marriage and parenting program. And the marriage and parenting program really runs kind of parallel to the Nurturing Fathers. We talk about things related to the relationship roots. We go back to remember why it was that you became a couple, that you married, that you became parents. We look at the family. We look at family history, and we look at history by looking at his story and looking at her story, because these are two individuals that have different stories that are coming together to hold up the same household. And then we talk about how do you meet your needs individually as well as collectively. What does family leadership look like? So harmonizing those different needs and wants. How to spice up the relationship, talking about feelings. We have a family fun night, and we give away gift cards where they can just go out and have a good time, have a family fun night. Then we come back together and dig into the power to nurture those relationships without fear and violence, discipline and teamwork, and then successfully juggling time and family life. So we do both sides with either the men or with men and women.
Awesome, Marion. Great work. This is a topic that just doesn't get, I guess enough attention. Definitely not from, I guess, perspective of the father in the parenting of a child. So definitely want to commend you on the work that you're doing and kind of, creating a space that will empower our fathers, which we know by extension will empower our community as well.
Yep.
I want to go ahead and introduce a couple of our guests who are past participants of the Nurturing Fathers program. First of which, we have Akil McLeod, who is the founder of the Dapper Advisor, and as I mentioned, former participant into the program. Akil, take a moment to introduce yourself. Tell the world a little bit about yourself.
Well, thanks for having me, Jerry. I appreciate it. My name's Akil McLeod, founder of the Dapper Advisor. The Dapper Advisor originally started as an online boutique for just men's clothing, fashion, and accessories. And I recently started a podcast due to my experience with M.A.N.C.A.V.E and all of the things that I was learning at that time. I started a podcast called the Dapper Advisor Show, where I talk to men, other fathers, other husbands, whether they're fathers that have a ton of experience, or maybe they may be fathers that have a little bit of experience just like I did. So we talk about some of our wins, some of our lessons. We share some, just uplifting, encouraging stories. We talk about just about everything in terms of manhood. And my goal with that show is to encourage men to just become better husbands, better fathers, and ultimately become the best version of themselves. And with the help of M.A.N.C.A.V.E, I was able to find another purpose and find another reason to just start another business, but a passion project at the same time, because I've always been a serial entrepreneur, and I was definitely stuck in a rut right before I had my daughter. And after going through M.A.N.C.A.V.E, it kind of started to put a lot of things into perspective for me. So it's really just been a really good experience so far.
Akil, thank you for sharing that. I know we'll kind of dive into that a little bit further, but definitely want to commend you on the work that you're doing and recognizing that you had the opportunity for growth and did something about it, not just kind of knowing you need to do something. You actually took action on that. So thank you, and look forward to hearing a little bit more about your story in just a few moments.
Appreciate it.
Next, I want to introduce Thurston Smith, speaker and author, and all around good guy. Our urban league
Yes,
so Thurston, welcome to the broadcast. Please tell the world a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, thank you for having me on. My name is Thurston N. Smith, the world's #1 alpha gentleman lifestyle coach, consultant, author, facilitator, trainer. I have an ability to break down complex ideas into smaller, more understandable subjects. Because I believe that sometimes things go over our head, and not a lot of people are going to ask questions, to get more understanding. Sometimes they just like to just have things go over and seem like they're understanding what's going on, but not really understanding what's going on. I'm a father, I'm a husband. I do a lot of great things here. I'm just trying to showcase now. Uh, Now I'm coming into this stage of my life. I like to say, hey, the young years of me just figuring it out because I didn't have a father in my life the whole time, and then I did have a father. He worked a lot, so it's still me figuring those things out on my own. And then I finally came into fatherhood. I was just kind of, didn't know where to start, didn't know what to do, and trying to pull up all those past experience growing up. Um, I just didn't know which one to go off of because some were good and some were bad. So that led me to, get some more help and understanding how I can be a better father. Because you always talked about, a lot of men talk about they don't want to be like their father, they want to be a better father, but said, what training do you do to be a better father? So that's what led me to get go on this path and this journey to be a better person, to be a better man for my family.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Thurston. So I'll ask a question for, I guess, each of our participants, but also Marion, if you want to chime in on that. Um, how have each of you been impacted by your participation in the Nurturing Fathers program? And let's start with Thurston.
Well, that's a great question. Like I said before, I wanted to be the best father I possibly could, but it's more than just saying it. It's more, you have to actually go be trained about, from training from other fathers, because from where I was, the representation of things that I was seeing didn't seem to me like those fathers that I wanted to follow and model my life after. So I went on this journey when I had my child to just start finding these classes and more training, because it was really interesting that they have these classes for women and for mothers, when they find out that they're about to have a baby, but there's no classes for men, for men dealing with coming into being a parent. So I found it very interesting. So one of my friends had a class, and I just jumped on the opportunity, and then from there it just kind of just launched me into just finding more information about being a parent, and then working more on myself to be the man do I need to be for my son and then for my family. And so it just kind of started from there. So I've been taking class after class about just being a man, what manhood looks like, what leadership looks like, and how to now distill those things into my family to make them run smoothly.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Thurston. And again, as I mentioned to Akil, salute to you for recognizing that you had an area of opportunity and you wanted to improve upon it, and you took action upon that. And each of you, as being fathers of kids of our community, we have to commend you for doing the work, even though they're your kids, but we all benefit from each of you being responsible parents and helping raise them to be productive citizens. And Akil, I guess if you can answer that same question, what impact has the Nurturing Fathers program had on you?
Man, the Nurturing Fathers program just gave me so much more perspective, because when I was going through literally going through bouts of depression, I was doubting myself. I lost my confidence. I didn't know what I was doing as a father at that particular time. And of course, when you're having those feelings, it kind of spills out into all other facets of your life. So for me, having those other conversations with other fathers, other men that were not only experiencing similar things, but were just experiencing different things as well. And it just gave me more perspective in terms of how to deal with it, how to just give myself more patience, more grace. But also it gave me more perspective in the sense of understanding that it was not just an emotional change that was going on, but it's a physical change as well that a lot of men deal with. And I know Marion will touch on this later, but in terms of impact, just learning about that drop of testosterone that happens when a father first has a child was huge for me. It let me understand why I was going through the things I was going through, but it also gave me more patience and more grace for some of my other friends that were recent fathers, and a lot of them were scared, a lot of them didn't know what to do. And the difference is that when they didn't have, I realized when they didn't have a community that they could lean on to, or they didn't have other mentors or other men that they could discuss these type of things with, I realized how they handled it, and I realized how I was able to handle it, and I seen the difference in the two. So not only did it just give me perspective, but it just gave me much more of an appreciation of the man that I know I want to be. And man, going through that man cave program just literally just started to build that foundation and build really just helped build up my character a little bit more as well, because it just gave me so much more respect for fatherhood, so much more respect for manhood, and it showed me the responsibility that I have, and the responsibility that I hold within my family and within my community as well.
Sure. So you mentioned, I guess your peer group of other fathers. Have they been inspired? Like, have they taken note of the your evolution? Have they been inspired to ask the question like what what caused it? How can how can they take part of it as well? Have they been inspired to kind of catch up with you, basically?
Absolutely, absolutely, and it's been good because it's one of those things where so oftentimes we tend to either condemn our friends for not stepping up in the way that we think they should, or we kind of just distance ourselves from them completely. But for me, I just kind of put everything out there. I started the YouTube channel, I started my podcast, and I just started posting it on social media. And once I started doing that, other people started reaching out to me, people I haven't spoken to since I was in grad school. They were reaching out to me. This is 10 years ago at this point.
Oh,
And we started just having conversations, building more community, just kind of sharing some of our sharing our experience. And it was similar to therapy. I always tell people it was similar to therapy, not only for them, but for me as well, because it's rare in order for people to have a safe space to have these types of conversations. But since I already went through the Nurturing Fathers program at Marion, I was able to kind of share some of the lessons I had and learned, and I shared it with them. And they've all been guests on the podcast. They've helped me grow it. They've connected me with other people as well. So it literally was, I literally seen how you can just start by just making one connection, and then
sure.
things could literally branch out from there.
Awesome, awesome. That's a great story to hear that. Um, I want to turn to Thurston, ask couple of questions. And again, if you are out in the audience and you would like to ask a question to any of our panelists, that's participants who are going through the program, or uh, the Man Cave program director, Marion Hill, please feel free to drop it in the chat. We want to hear from you. We want to be able to answer your questions. We want to be able to get all the information about this program available to you and have you possibly join, or tell a friend, brother, cousin, maybe your spouse, or maybe even your own father. I don't know. That may be a great opportunity. It's never too late to kind of become better at what it is that you do, whether it's your employment or just your station of life, including if that's a father. So, but question to Thurston, 2022. We're just coming out of COVID. The world is ever evolving. What does fatherhood look like to you in 2022?
Oh man, great question. To me, in 2022 and beyond, now moving forward in the future, looks like stepping into that godlike image that they talked about in the Bible so much. Because it's just like the things that made a man back in the day are pretty much obsolete. We're not no longer really building our own houses. I mean, you don't have farms. You don't have to go get the milk. It's now being present in your household and showing love to your children by loving on their mother, regardless of the situation. You really have to step in there and take the higher route in every situation, because you have someone watching you, and then they're going to have questions for you of why you chose to do what you did that way. Why did you choose to say what you said to this person that you once had love for? And so for me, I really had to do a lot of study. I remember I studied, different leadership books from, from business, from the biblical, from spiritual side, to being a coach in football, to doing athletic coach, and having to now do all those things and learn about different love languages and learn about different emotions, learn about technology. I really had to become a master student and always continue on to keep on learning. One of my uh, mentors here is Dr. Miles Monroe. He always said that if you want to be a leader, you have to be a reader. And so now I had to stop doing the things I was doing, playing video games, countless hours just watching videos, and now substituting those into now pouring into more books, more audio books, finding more pieces of information on my downtime that's gonna not only make me better, but make me a better person to now go out and then these obstacles that I'm faced with, I now can dig into my tool belt to now knock those out. And so that's what I feel like what man is now, but fatherhood and what a man is looking like for, for the future is pretty much stepping into that godlike image of being a creator, because you created life, and in certain situations you might have to take a life too as well. So start really looking more into that, and now finding that within yourself to bring that out into the world that we're living in right now.
That's a lot, my brother. I appreciate with your opening candidness on that on this issue. Um, Akil, pivot to you and ask you one of the questions. And again, if you are out in the audience and you have questions for our guests, please feel free to drop it into the chat box. We want to get your questions answered. So, what things specifically have you implemented in your life since finishing the program?
So I got a laundry list of things that I implemented, but
We got time. We got time.
firstly, it was one of the things, just something as simple as when Marion said, meeting my own needs and taking time to myself, taking time for myself, because for a long time, as I said before, I've been an entrepreneur for almost 6 years, and you find yourself leaving a 9 to 5 so that you can build your own, but you realize how much work it takes to actually build your own. So for a long time, I found myself just constantly grinding, not necessarily taking enough rest, and um, you know, pouring back into myself, because it's one of those things where you can't necessarily pour into someone else's life from an empty cup. So once I realized that that particular stage in my life, I was just feeling empty, and I was just feeling like I couldn't really piece everything together. I started just taking more time for myself, and that included massages, going bowling. I started boxing again. That was something I was doing for a while, and I stopped doing it, and I would jump back into it. I started golfing because, as we know, boxing is a tough sport. So I had to, find something that could, I can still do that was physical, but also implement something that was mental. And golf is definitely a very mental sport. But at the same time, one of the biggest things that helped me was really just building that community. I took it for granted of the fact that I knew so many fathers that were fathers for 20 years, 30 years, 5 years, but I knew so many fathers that just had so much more experience than I did, and I realized that I needed to tap into that wealth of information. And the thing is, I realized for a lot of men, since we don't have those safe spaces to have those types of conversations, they were actually excited to, speak with me and share some of their experiences. And by sharing those experiences, just having a conversation, really, because it wasn't like necessarily like an interview or anything too serious, but I really just wanted to kind of open the door for communication and start to build a tribe around me, and be there for them, and make sure that I also had people for me. Because a lot of men, especially if you're like very financially driven, if you're somebody that really, you just want to, be, for lack of better words, you want to be rich. So for a lot of men, we spend a lot of time working, but we also work in silos. So I realized the power of, creating a tribe, bringing people together, having people that are not on your same level, but some people that may be a little below, some people that may be a little above, and just creating that tribe of people that you can not only follow, but you can also lead as well. And I've started to see life as more about people, as opposed to life being more about just for self or just for my immediate family. I realized that the impact that I have, not only as a father and a husband, it doesn't just impact my household, but it impacts, the greater community. So it's a big responsibility, but once you realize that you're not alone in it, you realize that, it kind of takes away some of the pressure.
Yeah, that was just amazing insight that you just provided, particularly when it comes to building that community. And so it just jogged another question. Maybe Marion may be better positioned to answer this, but um, through Man Cave, have you been able to maybe attract fathers to re-engaging with their children who they may have had a frayed or distant relationship with?
Oh yeah, yeah. I've got a great group that's going through now, and I commend Thurston and Akil for the work that they're doing, because they push me, even as a facilitator to be, a better man, better husband, better father. But some of the men that have come and that have gone through, struggle because they were disconnected from their kids, or, they weren't, in the same home, out of residence, and they wanted to figure out ways that they could could better engage with their kids, could become more part of their family. And I think that really showing them the link in terms of paternal nurturance and the importance of paternal nurturance and what it is that they're building. Because for me, Man Cave is more than just about putting it out and creating the safe, transparent environment for these men to have conversation. We talk about becoming better men, better fathers, better husbands. For what? For the end result of raising kids that are going to be socially, emotionally, and cognitively fully developed, so that they can take their steps, in society. So we talk about, the fact that when I talk to them, is talking to them about the fact that we know that, every child wants to be seen, they want to be soothed, they want to be safe, they want to be secure. They need that environment created by mom and dad. And we know when we talk about security, we know that that secure attachment is related to, intense feelings of intimacy. It's related to emotional security. It's related to physical security. And the one thing that fathers don't know when we talk about paternal nurturance. Look, if you're providing that environment of them being seen, soothed, safe, and secure, along with the baby's mother or along with your spouse, if you're seen in the same household, then guess what? It may not manifest itself now, but it will manifest itself later in your kids' lives, that you'll see their ability to communicate is enhanced, their productive coping skills and identity. They identify with their emotions. They have strong empathy towards others. Their self-esteem goes up. They become more supportive. They have that caring inner voice, and they're able to resolve conflict. But then it goes a step further than that. And when I just hit that portion right there alone, now all of a sudden fathers are thinking, wow, you know what? I do have an impact, and I have to figure out a way to get back involved in my kids' lives. Because then we stack on top of that and say, look, once you've built that foundation, now you're talking about kids that are becoming assertive, kids that are becoming confident, kids that now can start saying, look, I have some purpose. I understand who I am. I understand who you are, and I understand who we are. And so then it's just a matter of, okay, how do I get re-engaged? And it's just one small step at a time. And again, it starts with take care of you, meet your needs first as we start going back into the home, recognizing that the mother is the gateway. So you've got to enhance that relationship with the child's mother. You've got to enhance that relationship, because that's the way that you're going to get to the kids. And then when you get to the kids, it's by strategic parenting. Work together to raise these kids, whether you're in the home or not.
Sure. I'm glad you shared that part, because I think that there might be that thought in common culture, or just that I'm a father, she's a mother. We don't really have to interact, but we're just going to coexist to raise the child. And sometimes that dynamic may be the best one can hope for, right? Is
Mm-hmm.
just not be at odds with the person you share a child with. But you mentioned that like the importance of having like parenting isn't just with parent to child; it's parent to parent as well.
Right. Right. Yeah, it's that by strategic parenting. It's moving in the same direction together. It's coming to an agreement that what's important is, is your children and your children's growth and being able to nurture your children. Children are always listening. Children are always watching. And, one wants to be, the son wants to be like dad and he wants to relate to mom. The daughter wants to be like mom and she wants to relate to dad. Well, when they get out in society, that then helps them to relate to those that are like them, and it helps them to relate to those that may be of opposite, of them. So boy can relate to girl or girl can relate to boy. They can relate to one another. Again, it's about being socially, emotionally, and being fully cognitive developed. And so it's about putting those things aside in terms of your own relationship, because you know that you need to work on those. Just be friends or just be acquaintances, just get along for
Right.
the purpose of raising the kids, and then have conversation about what you both believe is best for raising your kids, and then give that opportunity. The kid needs time to spend time with dad. Kid needs time to spend time with mom, because they both bring valuable gifts to the table for the development of the child.
Certainly, certainly. So, I guess my next question is just like open-ended one, and anyone, feel free to chime in. For those of us who are not yet fathers, I've definitely, pretended to be someone's father at different points in my life, whether it's my nieces or my friends or the kids of my friends. But for those of us who are not yet fathers, what sort of advice or guidance or suggestions or thoughts would you like to share to someone who is not yet a father, but definitely sees that in their future or their aspirations?
I think the first thing that comes to mind is just being intentional, right? So I know at one particular time, this was, you could maybe say the 80s, maybe the 90s, early 2000s. A lot of people, a lot of men, they viewed fatherhood as almost being optional. They would say to themselves, "Oh, the baby's mother, she'll handle this, and I'll come back. I'll come in later on, or she'll handle everything for now, and I'll just figure it out along the way." But I think just being intentional with your time and being patient with yourself, because it's such a huge transition. And during these big life-changing transitions, one of the biggest things that we all have to do is just take some time to reflect and come up with some type of game plan. And once you're creating that plan, it's all about just being intentional, whether it's about trying to build a better, a stronger relationship with the child's mother, or maybe you're out of the home and you guys are not together, but the goal is still to create some type of a family structure in order for the child's benefit. Like, regardless of what's going on, I think as men, we have different responsibilities, we have different gifts, and sometimes it takes these types of life-changing circumstances to pull it out of us. But I think fatherhood is one of the greatest gifts a man can have. And if your situation at home isn't the best, you could think it was a curse or it was something terrible. But once you look at it from a blessing standpoint and something that's positive, everything that you do following that would just exude positivity and just uplift your wife, your girlfriend, your child, and everybody.
Certainly.
Right. Just piggyback off that too. For me, my philosophy around that is really family is business and business is family. We get so much training in our jobs, right? To be mindful of our speech, be mindful of our words and our actions. But when we leave, go home, why do we turn that off? It should be that way wherever we go. So when people are in certain situations where you're saying that you're not a father yet, as soon as you were in that role of a man, an adult, you're pretty much in a leadership role. Right. So you should be mindful of your speech and the way you carry yourself and how you interact and talk to children. So even me, when I'm not around my children, I can't stop being a parent. I can't just turn the other way. I'm a parent all day, every day, because that's my leadership role. If I'm a leader at my job, do I just stop being a leader and hold myself to certain standards after I leave from the workplace? No, you are that leader all day, every day. You can't just take time off like, no, I'm gonna lead today and not tomorrow. So how it was explained to me is that, there's a CEO, a vice president, and the children are the board of directors. So any decision that you're going to make, you're not going to make it on your own. You're going to invite, you're going to talk to, your partner, the vice president about the decision. And then on top of that, you're going to talk to the board, which the children, if how they feel about the decision. Because when you make a decision on your own, that is a selfish act, especially when you're in a family dynamic. So you want to make sure that you are looking at the whole thing as a family's business and business's family. For that decision that you're going to make sure that you're bouncing it to your partner, making sure you're asking the kids too as well, because you don't want that decision to be made and everybody be mad at you for making that decision. How can you didn't ask their opinion? How can they get their feedback? You know, you would do it at your job, you would do it at an organization. So how come it changes when it comes to your household?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that, and I want to hit it from another angle because, and I know Thurston would be familiar with this because, I've been a youth football coach for for years, and and I think it started, of course, when I became a father. But what I found is I was around a lot of kids that didn't have a father figure in their lives or a male role model, and so I played that role. I played the male role model, and so I would say for those that don't have a family yet or don't have kids yet, understand that you still play a role of a male role model. There still might be some kid that is out there that is looking at you as a man, as a male role model. And so I always say, and this is how I treated, those other kids. I always wanted to make sure that I affirmed them, that affirmations consistently, because I knew that the affirmations were going to build security in them. That here's a male role model that cares about me, that is feeding into my life with positive affirmations. I wanted to make sure that I was present for them. It wasn't what I could give them materially. It was my presence. And sometimes they needed my presence. Sometimes there were issues that they had at school where they were like, no, can coach come? Or mom would come and have a conversation with me and go, can you go? It's just your presence as a male role model. Understand that boys, especially with male role models, are watching. They watch what we do. They watch how we act. They watch how we deal with stress. They watch how we interact when it's a negative situation. They're watching. And then again, for me, I think it was understanding that if I made a commitment, if I made a promise, then that's what I was going to give you. Why? Because broken promises create broken people, and I so wanted to make sure that it was always there. And then really one of the most important things I think that as a male role model, whether dealing with my kid or whether dealing with other boys on my team, understanding that when they came to me with issues or when they were going through situations, tough situations that they were dealing with, and trust me, we would talk about issues. It wasn't just about schoolwork and it wasn't just about football. We would have discussions with teenagers around alcohol, around sex, around dealing with girls, around just respect. So I wanted to make sure that the way that I responded to them is the way that I acted, because I didn't want to give them a perceived perfection of how to act or how to respond, because that doesn't do anything but create a perverted perception. And what I mean by that is, when I'm going through struggles, this is how I deal with them. When they're going through the same struggles, they're like, look, I'm looking at coach. This is how he dealt with it. So I want to deal with it in a healthy way, because that's the way that I deal with it, because that's how I want them to deal with it. I don't want to tell them one thing and then I go off and deal with it somewhere, some way else. I'm drinking alcohol, or I'm hanging out in inappropriate places, or doing things I shouldn't. That's the perceived, that's the perverted perfection.
Surely, surely. So, uh, looking at the clock, we're winding down on the program, but I'm going to give each of our guests an opportunity for some closing thoughts before we conclude the program. However, before we do that, Marion, I know you got a couple of programs happening concurrently, and there's a couple of coming up. So, I guess take a few moments to talk about how someone can participate or but to join the Nurturing Fathers program, as well as some events that you have coming up later in the year.
Yeah, so the Nurturing Fathers program, we actually have a Nurturing Fathers program going on right now. That one will close here probably this week, because I like to keep that group secure together once we've been in it for a couple of weeks. But you can tap on to the Greater Phoenix Urban League website, click on Man Cave, on the Man Cave program, and click on the Nurturing Fathers program. That will take you to a flyer. It's got contact information down at the bottom in terms of how you contact. If you don't want to go that route, you can contact me directly at marion.hill at phoenix.gov, or you can hit me up at M.A.N.C.A.V.E program at gmail.com. Or if you want to, you can actually become a part of our Fatherhood text app, and you can just text Fatherhood to 602-932-6633. 602-932-6633, and just text Fatherhood to that, and we'll catch you. We'll get you and get you going. And then the other thing that we've got going that I'm really looking forward to is our Fatherhood Summit. We do this annually. This really is the partnership that exists between the City of Phoenix, between Greater Phoenix Urban League, and My Brother's Keeper. And it's really a 2-day summit that really promotes fatherhood and really looks at what things we can provide from an educational standpoint to enhance our abilities as fathers. Every father comes to the table with their own experiences, and I respect that. And the only thing that we want to do is maybe give you tidbits here and there that maybe can improve or enhance some of the things that you're doing. So we've got some national speakers. We've got Dr. Kyle Pruitt, who is a nationally renowned speaker and author in fatherhood. He is actually the professor of child psychiatry at Yale University. That's actually how he got into fatherhood and looking at the impact that fathers have on their kids. And then we've got Dr. Michael Campbell on the second day. We've got some great workshops that are going on. As a matter of fact, Thurston is facilitating one of those workshops. He's talked about communication, and so he's gonna facilitate a workshop on communication. The importance of please and thank you and excuse me. If you want a DISC assessment, which is an assessment to understand your communication style, your personality, and the best way that you communicate, you can do that there. We've got some workshops on mental health and the importance of recognizing and dealing with issues related to mental health. And then there's another one that's called Raise Your Family, Not Your Fist. So we've got some great workshops. And then that second day, we'll come out of the gate with a keynote with Dr. Michael Campbell. And then we'll go into, I have a series of fathers that are going to do what we call man talk. And they're just going to talk about some of the things some of the accomplishments and some of the lessons that they've learned as fathers. And then we'll end that afternoon with a panel discussion around fatherhood. So everything from family of origin all the way through talking about issues related to intersectionality and racism, and how we as fathers operate, in this world from the culture that we come from. So it's really going to be 2 interesting days. And so the summit, again, Greater Phoenix Urban League. The summit flyer will be out on the Greater Phoenix Urban League main site. You can click on that. It'll take you right to Eventbrite for the registration. And so don't worry about cost, because we made it free. All you have to do is show up, and we're going to pour into you.
Marion, thank you so much for that. And if you are, for those out in the audience and looking to register, I dropped the link to the Eventbrite registration for the summit happening in December 1st and 2nd. So if you would like to register, just go to the comments. It is there now. It will be there when you go back to watch this broadcast again to catch anything. And if you are not yet watching it live, but you come across the link when we redistribute it, you can still register. It will be in the comment section. Marion, thank you so much for your time, energy, and expertise on that, and sharing all the details of the Man Cave, particularly with the opportunity to make it free. So kind of eliminates any, at least one of the barriers that someone may have to attending. So wanted to make sure, we make it as easy and accessible as possible for anyone who can participate. So we're going to close out in a moment. So I just want to kind of give a chance to our guests to give some closing thoughts, and we'll start with Thurston.
Yeah, I you know what? For me, dealing with a lot of men are not quick to ask for help. So I just want to leave just a question for you. What type of relationship do you want to have with your children? What type of relationship do you want to have with your partner? Just internally ask yourself this question. And if it's about bettering or your communication, being a better man, how to be better to your son and to your daughter, I highly recommend that you text the chat and then show it to this conference. I tried to do this before and try to talk to them by begging them to come, and I had to now understand that they're gonna have to want to come. By just putting the information out, I really think that you should definitely just come check it out if you want to have a better relationship with your children and with your partner.
Thank you so much, Thurston. Akil?
Yeah, this was great, man. Every time I get in a opportunity to have these type of discussions. I love it. But the only thing that's came to mind in terms of closing thoughts is not only just being intentional, because that's probably my word of the year, but it's this quote that I've been literally just almost a mantra, if you will. And it's literally, and it goes like, if you want to go far, no, I always mess it up. If you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, go together. And that just speaks so heavily to me, and I think to everyone. It should speak to everyone, just as where we are in society. A lot of people are working in silos. A lot of people are distancing themselves. Even after the social distance era is over, people are still distancing themselves. So I think it's important to, like Thurston said, not only ask for help, but in terms of showing up wherever it is that you show up, whether it's at work or whether you're showing up for your family, showing up with a positive attitude is half the battle. And I think it just would not only improve those relationships and improve your performance overall, whether you're in the workplace or at home, but it's just, like I said, it's literally just half the battle. And I think that's something that has helped me along the way, just inserting more positivity in whatever it is that you're doing. You know me.
I got a streak going. Every broadcast I do, I got to talk on music. Aaron, I'll leave you with closing thoughts.
Man, this has been an honor and a privilege for me. Frederick Douglass said that it is easier to fix a child than it is to fix a broken man. And that's what M.A.N.C.A.V.E is really about, is just giving an avenue for men to come together and talk about issues that relate to us, whether that be our health, whether that be, relationship, whether that be our ability to be able to nurture our children. I'm only there to just facilitate the conversation because I surround myself with other men that are striving to be, better men, better father, better husbands. And so I just invite you to just be a part of M.A.N.C.A.V.E. To me, this is not a program. This is a movement. We just as men in general, as fathers, need to take a strong place and not be so much the thermometer, but to be the thermostat. We need to set the temperature. We need to set the gauge for our families moving forward. And we're just there to support, and we're just there to encourage men and fathers and male role models.
I can't thank each of you enough for joining us on this broadcast, but also having the courage to participate in the program, whether you were designing it and constructing it or serving as a participant. It took a level of courage that you all displayed, and not only have you benefited, but I know your children will benefit, our community will benefit from it as well. But also those that are on the fence, you all are a bit of inspiration for someone to take the step forward and kind of recognize that they have opportunity to improve their lives and their parenting skills, particularly knowing what such a vital role fathers play in development of a child, but a boy or a son as well. So I want to thank you all for your time, energy, and expertise in joining us on this program today to learn a little bit about M.A.N.C.A.V.E and all that it entails, and share your testimonies to what was so beneficial about the program. So if you are out in the audience, feel free to let us know. If you got any questions, you want to participate, you want to join, you want to participate in the program, you can go to gphxul.org to find more information about M.A.N.C.A.V.E and all of our programs here at the Greater Phoenix Urban League. I know this won't be the last time we have this conversation. The more people you impact, the more testimonies that will need to be shared. And hopefully we can create more opportunities to help others. So thank you all. Have a great evening and look forward to talking to you soon.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.